Well, good evening, Commissioner Buckbinder. It looks like we're just waiting on our second commissioner. We can go ahead and get started.
Cool. I'm just trying to switch to phone audio, and apparently I typed something in wrong, so I will be visible as soon as I get that dealt with.
Okay, that should work. Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hopefully you can hear me.
Hello. I've not actually run one of these before. Usually Stuart does it, who is out right now. So please let me know if there is something that I should be doing.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, yeah, as far as formalities go, I mean, we only have one item on the agenda tonight. So typically we just do basic introductions, introducing the two Site and Architecture Review Committee members, your role relative to the Planning Commission. And just kind of that no real decisions are being made tonight. We're providing a recommendation to the Planning Commission. This is an opportunity to get into the project details of the like the architectural and design of a project, so that we're informing a recommendation to the Planning Commission. They have that feedback in mind.
So what Stephen said, I'm Adam Bookbinder of the Planning Commission. That's Alan Zisser of the Planning Commission. I believe this is his first time on Site and Architectural Review. And as Stephen said, this is, I assume he'll be back. As Stephen said, this is all advisory. It's sort of like a tiny study session to talk about aesthetics and such. Thank you for being here this evening. We have one item.
Yeah, and I can go ahead and get started. And the two commissioners before you, Carl, just so you're aware, they are two of our 7 planning commissioners. So they are, in a way, 2 of your ultimate votes on a project. So let me go ahead and get us started. I'm just going to be presenting straight from the staff report. Didn't have as much time to pull together a presentation tonight, but I think it's a pretty short item. It's pretty straightforward as well. So tonight, what our applicant is requesting is a conditional use permit with site and architectural review. And this is to allow for the removal and replacement of the existing rooftop cupola to facilitate the installation of a new concealed wireless facility. As part of the scope of work, there's also a little segment of the roof to the side where they're going to be raising a screen wall. And they're also looking at installing a new access ladder on the south side of the building, which I'll kind of capture in a minute. So in terms of locale, this particular project site, it's located in the Kirkwood Plaza Shopping Center, and the cupola is located between Forthright and Nob Hill Foods. So there's an existing cupola there, so they're just kind of looking at removing and replacing it. The site's in the C1 Neighborhood Commercial Zoning District, and of interest of this particular permit, which I'll capture here in a minute, is that the existing cupola already exceeds the maximum allowable height, but so will this replacement of this C1 zoning district. So there will be consideration before the Planning Commission as to whether or not a height exception is warranted in this particular case. So we've already kind of summarized the purpose of the Site and Architecture Review Committee, but really this is our opportunity to get into the nitty-gritty about architectural form, materials, and colors of this proposed facility. The city also in recent years has adopted a new wireless facility ordinance, as well as a wireless facility design requirements booklet, which walks you through the intent of how we're supposed to be proceeding with wireless facilities on a going forward basis. The big picture was we didn't want to make it difficult necessarily for wireless facilities going forward. We wanted to recognize that our emphasis is transitioning from a history of past where people had all these concerns about the health, safety impacts of these things, the frequency and how common they are, to really a design emphasis. We're trying to focus on trying to make them look good, so that they can last in our community. And actually, in this particular case, with concealed facilities, they're really meant to complement, enhance, and seamlessly integrate with the built environment. So we're really trying to imagine a scenario where, in an ideal proposal, that we would be supportive of this request, this change to this building, this architecture, even if there wasn't wireless equipment being proposed inside of it. So it's that high a bar. But once established, we're going to make it a lot easier for renewals and continued operation. So with that said, the site already has an existing rooftop cupola. It's a metal standing seam blue roof, which would be restructured with stucco with, again, a stucco siding and a new blue standing seam metal roof on the top and a little bit of a light well to kind of mimic that original look. As staff, we can see parallels between this proposal and what our wireless facility design requirements are calling for, which is kind of the seamless integration. It's meant to kind of pick up on existing materials and colors that you see common in the project site. But we also identified a couple of areas for improvement. And in the report, we kind of outlined one of them, the first of which is you have this kind of architectural column that could be continued up in terms of the tower element. I guess I'm saying column, but I mean tower. You could kind of continue this color up rather than kind of borrowing from the beige stucco siding that's elsewhere. Just pick up on the material, which the color that's immediately below it, and carry it up. I did a quick Photoshop job. I'll be first to admit that that's not a perfect color match, but the intent would be that they would match. Just keep that in mind. I think I did that in MS Paint, so don't judge it too harshly. Moving on here. We're also recommending changes to this roof. So the roof isn't as detailed as perhaps it maybe should be in this plan set. So it's not exactly clear what the applicant's intent had been. Maybe the roof was just to kind of come like a half inch or a foot beyond the edge of the stucco detail that you're seeing here, or it was going to terminate before it. Guessing that the idea was to terminate before the edge of the stucco. There is an example in the shopping center where that occurs, which is the Baskin Robbins building, which is one building over. It's the same shopping center, but it's a different building. And what they've done on the roof of that is to do a bullnose design. So you actually take the roof down and you kind of do a little hook, this little rounded transition. I use bullnose, more commonly referred to in like, I don't know, kitchen countertops perhaps, but it's an architectural term that describes the rounding of the roof edge as well. There's probably obviously other options. I mean, we could just kind of carry it just straight down as a typical gable or hip roof design would typically do, but that was one idea we proposed in the report. And then secondly, I mean, I actually went out to this particular project site, and we're going to be raising the stucco area on the building, and so there's this opportunity. You have all this this detailing, ornamentation. They have this stone that's like a ledge stone banding element, as well as these medallions. And I'll say that these aren't exactly the most attractive things in person. They kind of look better in the photo from a distance. They do occur elsewhere on the project site, but the question would be, now that we're going to be raising this tower element up, so imagine this, it would kind of look odd to keep those where they are. So we do have the choice of raising these up further up on the building as they are, as they currently occur, or trying to, recognizing they're going away anyways, replacing them with other elements on the site, which are slightly more attractive medallions and banding elements, such as the ones you're seeing here. So rather than it being ledge stone, you might go with these kind of inlay medallion elements. There's a few examples on the product site I can walk us through here in a minute. I'll pull up Google Street View and we can kind of do a little tutorial view. Beyond the tower cupola itself, this is that additional rooftop screening area. So there would be antenna equipment that's occurring outside of the cupola behind this little screen wall. It's no really different than other mechanical equipment that we have on roofs of buildings, like where you're screening HVAC equipment or otherwise. I don't anticipate it's going to be all too visible. I think that the photo simulation does pick up on it a little bit. If you're looking, it's very hard to see. It raises just a tad little bit in this photo sim. But again, at a distance, especially as you're closer and on the site, you're not going to notice it. It's not going to be, the tower, the cupola is where we should be spending our energies. And then beyond that, also, we have this mechanical, or this ladder access, which you're proposing on the rear side of the building. So kind of going back over the site plan view, this would be really here on the south edge of the building, where it may be visible from these residential units to the south, but not all too much so. And as a consideration on this one, I mean, we were looking at it from the perspective that you have this kind of, normally when you provide these types of ladders, it's just, you're usually fortunate. You have like a solid continuous surface or wall that you'd mount it to. In this particular case, there's a little bit of a gap that occurs on the second floor that in theory, somebody could just grab onto the backs of the ladder, won't be protected by a cage. or in this particular case, just because of the way that the plans are drawn, the cage doesn't extend far enough down that you could actually swing around this little ladder and climb downwards on the ladder. So there's kind of two different ways of approaching this to solve it. One would be we could just carry this cage a little bit further down, and what's the likelihood that somebody's gonna climb on this thing anyways? That would probably resolve it from a OSHA safety compliance perspective. The second is if the planning commission felt as if there's also kind of like an aesthetic concern, where you'd be seeing like the side of a ladder that's like kind of affixed to the side of a building, then has this gap. They could also potentially fill in the building in this area, so you create kind of a continuous surface. You lose a little bit of articulation, but you don't result in that floating ladder approach. Now, that said, one other kind of big talking point on this particular project is this idea of height. So typically properties in the C1 or neighborhood commercial zoning district are limited to 35 feet in height. So that's the maximum. That's a pretty low cap, but it is the cap. And the code does provide exceptions to that in limited cases. Like the idea is if you had an elevator shaft, or if you had a chimney that goes up beyond the height limit, those types of architectural elements are allowed to project beyond the maximum height of the zoning district, provided that they don't result in an increase in floor area. They don't want that area to be functional. So kind of reviewing the exception to height provisions, the code provision, there's a little bit of nuance in it. I mean, arguably there's some elements in this that don't necessarily meet the definition as well. Like it's saying these height exceptions are allowed for roof structures for the housing of elevators, stairways, tanks, ventilating fans, or similar equipment required to operate and maintain the building, which is somewhat critical. Then also goes on to say parapet walls, skylights, steeples, flagpoles, chimneys, or similar structures may also be erected beyond the height limit here and described. So we're flagging this as a point of that there is a reasonable argument to be made here, and we're asking direction from the Planning Commission if this should be considered as similar equipment as the examples provided, therefore warranting a height exception. So with that said, I mean, at the end of the report, we always provide these summary statements just to kind of make sure that we articulate and capture all the feedback that we're looking for from the report. I'm going to go ahead and stop talking for now. I'm going to possibly recommend that we open up the conversation for the applicant first, and then the SARC can more or less close the public discussion part of it, and then start to hit these questions if time is available. And I'm not seeing that many people in attendance. You could always have a little bit more of an open dialogue with the applicant and staff as well. But just to provide a little bit of structure, understanding you don't typically host these, Adam. So that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Stephen. Carl, you are the applicant. Would you like to tell us about the project from your perspective?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you all for your time and consideration to discuss this proposal. It's kind of been two years in the works. AT&T, originally, I reached out to Stephen to look at co-location on the existing Crown Castle Tower, and we kind of invested a lot of time and money to see if we could make something more or lesser visual impact by co-locating and putting I think it was a mono eucalyptus in the time. But after we kind of investigated after 12 months, Stephen and I had come to the decision that it really didn't meet the city's design requirements because they're always favorable towards stealth facilities, and it was in one of Stephen's plan check correction letters that kind of detailed a few of these structures that were existing in the shopping center, and Verizon actually had used one for their facility on the adjacent building. So hence we were kind of thankful for Stephen to kind of point this out. This is what the city's looking for. And again, it's a stealth facility. The structure is existing. We want to obviously rebuild it and replace it so it looks like it has never been touched. However, in order to put the antennas inside it, we need to change the design of the existing structure somewhat. And because it is existing, we're hoping that it's going to have little to no visual impact on the area. The ladder that Stephen was referencing at the end of his presentation there is for maintenance purposes, and there is one on the adjacent building. And so I think our A&E, the architect engineers, had just designed this particular ladder or detailed it to match the ladder that's existing on the adjacent building that where Verizon is located. We have no qualms. I'm willing to work with you guys at the architect review committee to change any little nuances that you think would be in fitting. That's no problem. We could add those to the construction drawings and detail them. Again, we want to make sure this does meet the city's design requirements and it's as least visual impact as possible. And we have a willing landlord. I think it's a great location. I think it's a good design. And obviously it will suit AT&T's purposes to cover this particular area where there's a significant gap in coverage and service. So I'm here and I'm willing to work with you guys to make this work.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Zisser, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Zisser, you have to be muted.
You're muted.
Okay, so I have a question about how much. First, additional height. I'm sure it's in the agenda, but how much additional height does this add? A couple feet? Is that what it is?
Exactly.
From the existing cupola.
Yeah, and the 2 feet we could actually rebuild it exactly the same.
I'm not
height.
worried about. Yeah. I was just curious. It's a couple feet, right?
It's 2 feet,
Exactly.
1 inches. So it's,
Okay. So let me ask you, there's a tower over by the Nob Hill, the other tower, the big red brick emphasis tower, whatever you want to call it, on the corner by Nob Hill, on the western edge of Nob Hill. How tall is that? Still taller than the planned cupola? How tall is that? That seems tall, and it already exists.
yeah, I can pull it up on street view so we can all be sharing the same screen.
I was just curious whether or not, if that's already.
So we're talking about this tower here. So the question is whether or not this tower would be taller than the newly installed increased tower height here. So I think what you're seeing, if you're following this, it's somewhat deceptive, but this plate height here, the second floor plate height, I actually think lines up. I know it's at a distance at an angle, and I could get you the exact measurement, but I think it's getting you roughly to about here. So this would be a little bit, this would get you that additional height you're not seeing. So, I mean, you'd be kind of doing a similar modification to this structure here to kind of get the height I think that they're trying to achieve. So I think that this has a similar terminus point here as you're seeing here. Maybe this is a little bit taller.
That does look reasonable. I think we lost Commissioner Zisser again. So, should we wait or?
Yeah, well, maybe while we're,
oh,
maybe we should wait.
Okay.
Maybe what we also suggest is this, sir, is that he turn off his video, just if bandwidth latency issues are a concern.
Yeah, it's always also possible to dial in to the Zoom meeting via phone and watch on YouTube.
Right.
Also, Stephen, thank you. I did not know how to pronounce cupola. It was a book word for me until today, so thank you.
You're welcome. I'm gonna actually see if I can get a West Campbell Avenue. See if I can actually get a tilt view. So Google Maps actually allows you to do a tilt, which you can get a little bit of an expression height. Not sure if this version of Google Maps on this laptop.
3D.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to let me do it on this version on this laptop. It has a limited graphics card, so only more advanced graphics cards can handle the tilt.
I can't
I'm back.
reliably share my screen. Hi, Commissioner Zisser.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I'm I'm sorry.
And Alan, we were going to suggest maybe if you turned off your video, you would save some bandwidth on your internet. We'll be able to hear you that way, but yeah, I don't think I was quick enough there.
Nuts. I guess
With a
we can only
suggestion.
have the one item. Yeah, I'm looking at the tilted view, and
I can probably do it on my other computer over here.
yeah, I think the one we're discussing is a little bit taller. I think that
Right.
the squared off edge of both is about at the same height.
Hi, Commissioner Buckbinder. This is Rob Eastwood, Community Development Director. Just a matter of procedure. It's not a Brown Act body. I know Commissioner Zissner's having some internet issues. I mean, if you want to go ahead and ask Stephen any questions you need, you can go ahead and do that. And when Commissioner Zissner comes back, you can continue. Your choice.
Okay. I had one question for the applicant actually. But, let's try and get Commissioner Zisser on properly.
I'm back, I guess. Hold on.
Okay.
I'm back.
Could you turn off your
I don't
video
know how long
and dial in?
back. You know, I don't know if I have the dial-in number.
So I went ahead and turned off your video, Commissioner Zisser. Let me see if that helps your. I manually did it on my side.
Thank you, Stephen.
So I both apologize and hope that helps.
Okay. Oh, where were we? The heights of the two plates?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Buckbinder. The last discussion point, I think, from Commissioner Zisser had been what was the height differential between the two cupolas, which is 2 feet 1 inch. And then he'd raised the question about the other tower on site in front of the Nob Hill. And we're trying to ascertain the height of that, but computer limitations and former knowledge not prevailing. I don't know. I think they're about comparable.
We've lost him again.
Yeah, I'm looking at that tilt view on this other computer, and they do look almost foot for foot the same.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we can wait until Commissioner Zisser is back again, but I wanted to ask, out of curiosity, I wanted to ask the applicant, I guess, what will the new antenna do? Right, like, will it provide a greater level of service in the area? Will it provide more reliability? Like, tell us about the reason for the project.
Yes, Commissioner, all of the above. And I'm not sure if you're aware, AT&T, number one right now, is carrying the FirstNet, First Responders Network. It's the only carrier doing that, band 14. So all of AT&T's new site builds are carrying band 14, which is the First Responders Network. And then in addition to that, AT&T over the next, I think, 2 or 3 years are going to be upgrading all their existing sites to put band 14 on those sites too. So that's number one thing, is improve public safety in this particular area, because whenever there's an area that is struggling for bandwidth, and obviously Commissioner Zisser is having that tonight, that won't happen to first responders when AT&T sites have the FirstNet. Band 14 is a reserve of all sites for a particular, band 14 is the frequency for first responders. So that's one of the number one things it's going to do for that particular area. And then obviously ATC, when they invest into putting a new site in an area where they have all of the tools, the industry standard tools that tell them that they have a particular area that's struggling for bandwidth and or for coverage, obviously it's going to improve a great deal of in-building service. I think number one was I read on the RF radio frequency report for that particular area. So where travelers nearby or outside may have good coverage, when they go in building, that's when it's struggling greatly in that commercial district, shopping center, and residential areas to the south of the shopping center. So most people that have AT&T service are struggling with in-building service right now. And as you probably know, that 70% of homeowners these days don't have landlines anymore. They strictly rely on cell service.
Thank you. That answers that question for me. I suppose I'll keep going, and if Commissioner Zisser has questions, we'll ask him when he comes back on. Unless Stephen or Rob, do you think we should continue waiting? But
no, I think we press on to Community Development Director Eastwood's prior point.
Okay, so my thoughts on this is that mainly I want to avoid making short-term trade-offs at the cost of long-term performance or sustainability. I did go out there this morning to look at the site. From what I can tell, you can't really see it from a car, and it's not really a place that's easy to walk or bike to. I am generally in favor of ornamentation, but I'm of the opinion that it's okay for this to be primarily functional. I think staff's recommendations are excellent. I think it would look. I do think the brick up to the top, or the brick color up to the top, would look better. I think the bullnose on the roofing would look better, and so forth. And but I'm not terribly stressed about that. I feel that staff's reading of the height improvement being the rules about the height increase feel a bit strained, in that while the additional service will help people in the building, it's not just for people in the building. But at the same time, like, I'm certainly not going to be complain about an extra 2 feet 1 inch, especially 2 feet 1 inch of, like, it's not usable area, like, as in people aren't going to be living there or doing business there. And yeah, and I certainly agree with safety requirements for the ladder to make sure that nobody gets hurt. I was not aware that we had this. This was part of our infrastructure in this way, and I'm glad that we're addressing it. I don't have any particular complaints. I think staff made good recommendations. I don't have anything to add to it.
So if we're going off the agenda packet, so I'm going to pull that back up here on screen just so we have it for the benefit. So these were the questions. I think we captured all of them, but maybe one that I might have heard was, there is this this Kirkwood Shopping Center K sign, which is located on the building, and I'm not sure if I heard. Hopefully, you guys am I sharing the packet page right now?
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. So going back to Street View, I'll show you what that looks like. So we have this existing K. So obviously that K could be raised in the building. This might be an outdated detail for the shopping center as well. I think they've actually moved to this kind of new styling, to be honest. I think this is the new Kirkwood Shopping Center logo. But again, I mean, the question is whether or not it would look odd if this building were to be raised to keep it at its current height, or if that should also be raised or removed, or I guess now I'm raising a third option. It might be swapped with a different image with what we have elsewhere in the shopping center.
I agree. It would look odd to have just a blank wall above that. Like, it wouldn't be proportional. So, but again, I can't get too exercised about that. If it would make it, the easiest thing would be to just remove it, and the people in charge of that have no objection, fine. If they'd like to move it up, fine. I think it would be kind of cool to have a clock there, or the new logo, whatever would be the right thing. But yeah, I do think that it would look better if it wasn't just a blank wall above an existing design there. So
Okay.
Agreed with staff.
Thank you for that. And perhaps just in the interest of time here, I could see if I could get the dial-in number and see if I could send that to Zisser via email. I'm not sure. We are assisted here by Ryan. Brian, do you happen to have that email and Zisser contact, or that phone number available? Maybe we could post it here in the chat, or just.
I don't have the chat, but I have the.
I do have the mobile number. So now that Zizzer's back in, I can read it aloud. I can also maybe forward it to him via email right now. I'll tell you what, we make these little laptops telework really. I think mine's heating up.
Actually back.
So welcome back. I also just sent you the phone number for dial-in access.
I think I might have found what the problem was, but so can I just quickly before I get cut off? Okay, so I got no problem with the additional height. The issues that I had were with the aesthetic change recommendations. The aesthetics on the cupola that exist, it's clear to me that they were designed to match the other tower. Oh, Christ.
And I do have it up here on screen, so I'm happy to share what that looks like.
Oh, good. All right, good. I thought I was going off. Okay, so the banding and the little ledge stones are exactly the same as the other tower, and that's the entire complex. So my question is, it's there. The legends the cupola. So my take from the design already
It looks like we just lost him again. I'll try to translate as much of that as I was able to pick up. I believe what Commissioner Zisser, and I don't want to speak for him per se out of turn or try to guess too much, but it sounded like he was picking up on the fact that these existing ledgestone and medallion elements do mimic those existing on the tower. And so
yeah.
And Alan, I'm afraid we might be losing you again. But the question then to Commissioner Buckbinder would be, given the fact that we have these other medallion elements and finishing details that do exist elsewhere in the project, the images that were being presented in the report, I'll mention, were these lower medallions and these lower ridge elements that you're seeing here. So these are actually the screenshots, those that were provided as exhibits in the report. So at these higher areas, they do have this ledgestone detail. So the question would be, given the fact we won't be changing these, presumably, would it be not more appropriate to retain that detail, carrying it up higher in the building, or given the distance between these buildings, again, kind of a wide angle view here, is this the chance or an opportunity to try to pick up the better design elements we're also finding in the project, like these that you're seeing occurring lower in the building? You do have this ledgestone detail. I mean, you're even seeing it embedded in these columns here. For me, it's a subjective, personal opinion thing.
Right. Can you guys hear me at all?
I can hear you again now.
Okay. That's my take, is that we should stick with what's existing to be consistent. The lower, those little rectangular white medallions, I wouldn't bring them up to the cupola either. It's like those are all consistently running along the top of the columns on the first floor. So that's where they should stay. And then just stay matched with the other existing tower. So that's my take on it, is you don't want to really change the look and feel. You want to keep it matched up. And I would stay with that. As far as bringing the red brick up, I'm either way on that. I think bringing the red brick up is fine, as long as you keep the same detail to match the other tower. So that's where I stand.
And then Commissioner Zisser, I'm not sure if you had any feedback on the ladder element or the location of the sign. Those are more minor details. Or I'm not sure if you just.
Yeah. I mean, the ladder is like whatever you guys think is best. It sounds like the owner will do what's necessary to meet the staff's desires. And as far as the K sign, if you're going to extend it, I suppose that aesthetically moving it up, it is actually getting blocked by the trees nowadays anyway, so you can't really see it very well. I was out there today, and so moving it up might be actually a good idea.
And then if I was just hearing you correctly, just want to maybe restate one of your prior points, was that you felt if we were going to be matching this tower element, keeping those medallions and ledgestone details, but also then maybe the treatment approach of the roof. So this roof does not have a bullnose detail. It does have a little bit of exposed stucco behind. So rather than rounding that corner, they just left it almost as a hip roof.
Yeah, and the entire center is that way. So it's like, the rest of the center, if you go right along there,
right,
it's entirely that way. So I don't see why you would want to, unless there's some kind of physical benefit in runoff or something like that, but I would otherwise stick with the matching design. So yeah, that would be my take. And for what it's worth, that's from 30 years of doing marketing design work. So not architectural work, but.
Okay, thanks for that feedback. I'm not sure if you had if you want to have a little bit of dialogue on that, Commissioner Buckbinder, or.
No, I don't have it. I'll let that stand. That sounds reasonable to me. I don't have strong opinions about that particular aesthetic aspect of things.
Okay.
So, is there
I have one other question, Stephen, before I get cut off again. So the design that is being is it the same? Is it the same architects that are designing this, that have designed it from before, or don't we know that?
It would not be. So that was an older architectural team. So this would be a site build by AT&T.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just saying in terms of the aesthetics, whether or not, it's clear that the architects that are doing this are trying to match the existing aesthetics, and I would tend to default to them. So that's all.
Yeah, we should be able to get.
That's all I have.
We should be able to get some of the as-built, Commissioner, so that we can make sure we identify those details in our drawings. And I believe the property owner does still have some of the as-built drawings for the building, so he's very much hands-on. So I don't see it being an issue us matching that decal.
Okay, well, I think I've gotten great feedback tonight. Not too passionate about some of these details, but I think we heard consistent feedback that the red brick color should be carried up on the building, and that we're kind of leaving it a little bit more open-ended on exactly the treatment detail on the medallion and ledgestone. But it sounds like at minimally in our planning commission staff report, we'll be identifying that we would be creating an inconsistency if we don't go with the stone detail, which we see on the other tower element. So that might be preferable from that perspective. And obviously the ladder detail is more of a building code compliance thing that we'll work through. But it sounds like a cage might be adequate. That's probably the most cost-effective approach, to be honest, for the applicant. So unless we had heard stronger opinions to the contrary, that might be what we advance with, and then raising the height of that K sign a little bit up in the building. That touches on all the points that we heard tonight.
Okay. And I love wireless, so got to have more wireless.
Yeah. Half the time the questions that we get on these is this going to improve my own personal? I'm going to get 5G LTE coverage now?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, sometimes I get calls like, well, I only support it if it's, Verizon, or I only support it if it's Sprint, because that's my carrier of choice. So yeah, exactly. So
except you
Okay.
gotta be standing in front of Nob Hill to get it, so.
Right.
Anyway,
So are we all
I'm
set for
good.
today?
Yeah, I apologize for my problems with connection, but it's been nice to be in the SARC meeting. So thanks, Adam. Thanks, Stephen.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Zisser. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Rob. And thank you, Mr. Jones, for being here. I hope this was helpful.
Thank you. Thank you all. Yes, you guys will have a wonderful evening, and look forward to seeing you all again during the PC hearing.
Yeah, I believe we're scheduled for, I think it's the 26th, October 26th. We'll be seeing you again soon.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Stephen, for all your work on this. We very much appreciate your help and guidance, and you stay safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Good night.
Good night.